Your misery is your ministry. Your pain is your purpose. Your suffering is your service. Your mess becomes your message. Your test becomes your testimony. God allows us to hurt to heal others because you cannot heal what you cannot feel. So don't let the pain of your past punish your present and paralyze your progress and purpose. Hello, everyone. I'm Bree Johnson, Director of Operations here at Turnaround Tuesday. What this means for me is that the decisions we make, even today, will lead to the outcomes of our tomorrows. During this time of the unknown, we can still be productive. Some are at home taking advantage of the time to work on some projects even themselves. And some are essential workers who are working hard just like us, knowing that many depend on us. How about you, John? What are your thoughts on this week's higher purpose?
Well, good morning. I also was thinking about all those random acts of kindness that we've been experiencing, like people making food for folks who are making sure people have food, or frontline workers, like you said, spending endless hours and making extreme sacrifices from their families. Wondering if this is actually going to be our new norm and what exactly will be our new purpose. Thomas, what are you thinking about that?
Well, when I think about higher purpose, I think about pain. Your pain is your purpose. When I look over my life, the most painful, the most dramatic, the most heart-wrenching, life-altering experience that I had was spending 22 and a half years in prison. That pain was like pulling a scab off an open wound. It was as if somebody was operating on me without anesthesia. It was a special kind of pain. But the truth be told, that pain taught me a lot. It taught me a lot about myself, taught me a lot about God, it taught me a lot about others, and it taught me a lot about my purpose. And I realized that I didn't go through that for myself alone, but it was so that I could be able to relate to and minister to others who are in need, especially during this time of tragedy.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Thomas. Thank you, John and Bree. Good morning, everyone. This is Melvin, giving the update from the co-directors. I got two brief updates today. One, I just want to say I spoke with Pastor Prentice this past week. Pastor Prentice, again, if you remember, is our spiritual leader and the co-chair of our board of directors. He just wanted to say that he is praying for each and every family of Turnaround Tuesday, and just let you know that this too shall pass, and that he is just continuing praying, knowing that everyone is going to be all right, and he sends his love. And second, we are continuing to have a contact with our anchor institutions. I had a call this past Friday from Johns Hopkins. I'm going to ask Bree to share some information as we continue to work around jobs.
Absolutely. Thank you, Melvin. So the update when it comes to operations this week, as mentioned a couple weeks ago, we established 2 teams. And I'm glad to report that our jobs team is reporting a lot of opportunities, especially as Melvin mentioned, with our major institutions such as Johns Hopkins and University of Maryland, and that the awareness team is anxious to share these resources, especially now around unemployment and the stimulus check that everyone's receiving. So be sure to reach out to any of us, and we'll make sure that we'll direct you to the proper person for assistance. Rebecca, I understand this week you have our spiritual vitamin.
Leadership is earned. It is not something that we walk into, and it is not permanent. When a leader views themselves as too good for something, or as if they shouldn't be challenged, is when I start to ask questions. Donald Buchanan said, "Leadership is not a position or a title, it is action and example." When I'm looking for a leader, the first place I look is their past. They shouldn't have to explain why they're qualified. Their past actions should show it. A leader is someone I trust and turn to for answers and guidance when the problem is beyond me. Leaders teach by example. What does this mean to you, Cheryl?
This actually is a really powerful quote for me personally. Sometimes I've waited for someone in a powerful position. I've let them intimidate me, or let me think that the idea I have is not the right one. And I'm thinking back actually to some of our earliest Turnaround Tuesday meetings with our now great partner employers. When we started, we were able to get the CEOs and presidents to agree that people should be given a second chance and get a chance to get to the interview table. As most people, when we started, who had records, could never get to the interview table. But the next meetings were the tough ones. People in high positions in human resources sometimes were not easy to convince about the process we wanted to move forward. And I personally had to move past trusting that everyone we came in contact with would do the right thing and would give our people a chance. It became clear we had to find a champion inside each institution, and we had to push hard to make this happen. But for me personally, I had to ignore the title, whoever we came in contact with, and push down, those voices you get in your head, like, who am I to make such a demand? Or I don't even work here. And like to stay all in and move forward what we thought was a hiring process that was fair and would give people a second chance. How about you, Michelle? What are you thinking?
Hey, Cheryl. I definitely think that in a lot of situations, titles are important. We live in a society where education equals titles equals more authority in some cases. But the one thing that I've learned is that leadership is objective, right? And, you talk a little bit about how you had to push against those titles and not let them hinder you in your process. And I think that that is definitely one of the biggest examples of being a leader, is being able to understand that nothing should hold you back from getting to where you want to get. So I definitely feel like all of these things are things that can blend really well to kind of create the leaders that we're looking for, especially in the day that we're living in right now.
Mm-hmm.
Hello, my name is Michael again. Remember last week we talked about the gratitude jar, and I encouraged everybody to put something interesting, something that they're grateful about in the jar. Well, this morning my daughter told me I love you, so I am grateful for the love of my daughter. And guess what? I'm going to put it in the gratitude jar.
Let's see that jar, Matt. Let's see it.
I ask my team, you guys have anything written down for gratitude for today?
Mm-hmm.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. So Terrell is going to come on and tell us how gratitude looks like in a leader. So Terrell.
Thank you so much, Michael. So hi, Turnaround Tuesday family. We hope you're well. We hope you're taking care of yourself, your family, and your neighbors. As Michael and the rest of the staff has said, we are looking at leaders today. What are leaders? For centuries, people have asked, what are the qualities of a leader? Who are leaders? How do we see leaders? And the question today is, how do you see leaders? Do you see leaders as maybe people with titles, people with letters behind their names, maybe people who have a lot of money, or people with famous names, or sports people, or elected officials, or what sort of Cheryl said earlier, important people? We think all people are important, first of all. And I want to talk today about leaders that I want to call first responders in our neighborhoods. These are our community leaders. These are people who live next door to us every single day, and they see issues like housing, or education, or recreation, or the loss of economics, or jobs, which we work very, very hard on, or the healthcare system, or childcare. They react to all these different issues that affect us every single day, and they're right next door to us. I remember one leader in particular when I worked in a neighborhood, and this neighborhood was filled with drugs. The schools were not very great, like unfortunately many of our schools. They had a 54% housing abandonment rate. So that meant that chances are you lived right next door to an abandoned house on both sides of you. There were really no recreation in the neighborhood. Violence was crazy right behind folks' doors. There was a lack of grocery stores, nothing for people to do around play. And in many cases, kids felt like their idea of play was knocking on folks' doors and running. And so I'm at this neighborhood association meeting, and I run into this leader, and she is like really, really angry. And she's fussing with the leadership, and she's talking about the fact that they never bring trash, these big roll-off trucks around so we can clean up the neighborhood, or they don't call the community, the council person to come and listen to their issues. And she seems so frustrated. And I'm sitting there, and it got so bad that she jumped up and just ran out of the meeting. So being, I think, a leader, I ran after her. And I listened to her. And we ended up having a series of meetings. And she said to me, Terrell, this neighborhood association is defunct, and I want to build a new one. And I've never done that before. I've never helped anyone build a neighborhood association, but I knew it was something that was needed. She knew it was something that was needed, and we didn't know how to do it, but we knew it had been done, and so we explored it. And today I can say to you, in that neighborhood, crime has been tremendously reduced. We have cleaned up a park that had not been used for many, many years and had an investment of $1.5 million. We have brought over $120 million is coming to that neighborhood, including a state-of-the-art stadium that's right outside of downtown Baltimore. So in our neighborhoods, there are many of these kinds of leaders. And the question is, when you see an issue, do you find other people that you can combine your own power with and make something happen? What we believe is a leader is someone who has a following. It is someone that will follow you. We say that someone who calls themselves a leader and no one will follow him or her is just someone who's walking in the park. A leader acts when others don't. They don't need to be liked, but they're followed because they get things done. And most people don't feel like they're leaders. I wonder why. Do you think you're a leader? So I'd like to take a moment and go through some of the characteristics of a leader. And Michael just showed us one is anger. Who would imagine that anger would be the first characteristics of a great leader? But think about it. Isn't anger that little pilot light? And we talk about, it's what we call cold anger. It's not rage. It's that cold anger that's inside of our bodies that says, you know, this is not right. It's not fair. It's not fair that we're going through this hard time and a certain population of people are having a whole lot more hardship than others. It's not fair that some kids go to big, beautiful schools with lighted buildings and working water fountains and all, and other kids don't. It's unfair that some kids have to live in violent neighborhoods and others don't. And we can sit around and say, oh, that's so horrible, or we can act. And that leader was a person that I knew would act. That anger will become a fuel that other people will feel. And we will come together around that and do something different. And look at the next characteristic, humor. We have got to be able to laugh at ourselves. In some of the most difficult times, even now, we have to find those places of laughter because that's what leaders do. Sometimes when there's tension high in the air, a leader will say something funny just to break the tension, not because the issue is not important, because the leader understands that right now we can't get anything done because we're so tense. Let's break the air and let's start again and go back in, right? And then next, I think Michelle talked about this hinted at this idea of objectivity. I can tell you when I first started organizing and learning about people and learning about political systems, I was really afraid of what we call the important people, the people with power. But I quickly realized I was one of the important people. I was one of the people with power. And I was in neighborhoods with people just like me, just as important and just as powerful, and we just didn't know how to use that power. So when it comes to objectivity, we got to get rid of stereotypes. We can't stereotype people. We can't stereotype issues. We can't stereotype power. We have to investigate and know what is the truth. Are African Americans being hit by this virus disproportionately? Some believe African Americans can't even get it, while we're seeing African Americans being rolled on gurneys. So objectivity is really about researching and find out what is fact, what is true, not on social media, but on real news. And then number 4, curiosity. Regina was curious about what was possible. Leaders have a curiosity that looks behind the issue. We don't just look at the issue of homelessness. We look at the things. We're curious about how the person got to that position and how big is the problem. We're curious about what is it about this virus that is unknown, and we want to know. Everybody wants to know. So a leader always have curiosity. And then the 5th one is my favorite, and anybody who knows me, I love an ego. An ego suggests that you are important, that others that are aligned with you are important, and you understand your interests, you understand their interests, and you're willing to fight for those things, to get at the table, to negotiate. An ego says, I belong here. I am not less important than anyone else. I am just as important as anyone with or without a title, with or without money, because I'm human. An ego suggests, I belong in this space. And last, but certainly not least, a leader has to, it says likes people. I say a leader has to love people. A leader has to have a love of people that really crosses any barrier or any of those things that others find a barrier. A leader is curious about and say, I wonder why that person feels that way. A leader does not say, I don't like them because they have this position. A leader says, because I'm really curious about that person and I'm objective, I want to find individually, how does this particular person feel, not because they're male, not because they're white, not because they're Black, but because they're human. A leader looks past all of those things that might divide us and see it as a multiplier. As a matter of fact, I think JC has a small quote that we looked at, and I'd love for her to read it for us.
Focus on the hard times ahead with thoughts of those who came before you. Focus on the mission ahead with thoughts of your role as a leader in your community. Focus on the obligations of your family and thoughts of their needs first, personal needs last. Focus on the future of your people with thoughts of your course of actions to make their dreams come true by any means necessary. Yes, you can become an extraordinary thinker and an outstanding leader.
Thank you, JC.
Thanks, JC, for your thoughtful quote. That was really good. Terrell spoke a lot about the roles of leaders. Leaders have to be objective and they have to be fact finders. They have to be the people who are going to find those facts out and use that to make informed decisions for the people that they lead. That is one of the most important characteristics of a leader. Okay, so for right now, it is a fact that many African American people are being affected by this disease unproportionately. You know, COVID-19 doesn't pick who it's going to affect. It's affecting everyone. So please do your research and find out the facts about how this may affect you specifically with your health concerns, your specific demographic, and your specific population. The next topic I'm going to talk about today is a stimulus check. Everyone's really excited about this stimulus check that's coming. Some people have already received it. We've talked a little bit in the past about some of the requirements for the stimulus check, but some of the requirements have changed recently. There are some recent updates. So you still should have filed your taxes for 2019 or 2018. And in order to receive your stimulus check in a direct deposit, you had to have selected to have your refunds in the past been directly deposited to you, okay? Preferably, they're looking at people who make less than $75,000 or up to $75,000. Thereafter, you can still receive a stimulus check. It's just going to be lessened. The total amount will be lessened. And it's $150,000 for people who are filing jointly in their household. So some of the recent updates are that people are able to receive stimulus checks even if they are on Social Security. It just takes a little bit longer. So you are still eligible if you are on Social Security, if you receive Social Security, but it just takes a little longer than everyone else. Okay, you are still able to file your taxes for 2018 and 2019. There's a lot of information on the IRS website, irs.gov. Please go on there and review how you may be eligible to still file those taxes, even if you've never filed them before. There are some new guidelines that enable you to file now. And lastly, paper checks will start to come out on May 4th. So please be patient if you don't have, or if you haven't selected direct deposit in the past, please be expecting a paper check starting around May 4th. Lastly, there's just some ideas of how to use the stimulus money. A lot of people are excited about it and may want to use it for different projects that you've had in mind. However, we're not sure how long we're going to be in this predicament. So it might be a good idea to do some research on how you want to save or spend this money in this time. There's lots of different websites that offer some great ideas of how to stretch this money out so that you can have your needs met if we have to be quarantined for another month or so. So please look into those sites. Thank you so much, and it was great to see you guys. Thank you, Turnaround Tuesday.
Thank you, Turnaround Tuesday again. As you know, we always close in prayer. This past week, we just came through religious holidays and still are in the midst of some religious holidays, whether you celebrate Resurrection Sunday, Easter, or Passover. These are times that, as you know, at Turnaround Tuesday, we recognize all faiths. I would like to close today in our prayer, and none at all. Good point, Terrell. I want to close today with a prayer from the Jewish faith. And let's bow our heads, please. God, watch over us and deliver us. For you, God, are gracious and merciful. God, our going and coming to life and to peace evermore. And we together say, amen.
Amen. So don't forget about our sitting jacks. We always do jumping jacks. Today's going to be sitting jacks. Let's just do 10 for our exercise. Sitting jacks. Let's go. 10. 1, 2. Rebecca, come on. Let's go. 3, 4, 5. Okay, I see 6, 8, 9, and 10. Bye-bye.
I cheated a little.
Love you.
I cheated a lot.
Bye, you guys.